Hi everybody, this is Boog Reviews, and today I'm going to be doing a review on the new McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Wonder Woman vs. Atomic Godzilla figure. So before we take a look at Godzilla, let's go ahead and take a look at the Page Puncher and regular scaled Wonder Woman figures. So first up, you get the data file for Wonder Woman and Godzilla, and if you want to read that, go ahead and pause that now. Up next, you get this Page Puncher scale Wonder Woman figure. And I have to say, this is pretty detailed. The head is actually just shrunk down from that regular size Wonder Woman in this set, and that looks really good. This is honestly probably the best head sculpt we've got on one of the 3-inch Page Puncher figures from McFarlane. The metallic reds look really nice and stand out. There's a lot of detail missing on her skirt right here, but these Page Puncher figures usually aren't that detailed. But that being said, I do think the head sculpt on this one is surprisingly detailed. So for her articulation, she has a ball-jointed neck there. Her head can't move up and down or side to side. She has shoulders that can only move out that far. They can spin up and down, though they do pop off pretty frequently. They do pop right back in, but that's irritating. She has a swivel at the waist and legs that can kick forward and back all the way. So now, let's go ahead and take a look at the regular scale Wonder Woman figure. So first up, Wonder Woman comes with her base. Because of the way the heels are sculpted and depending on the pose you want to get her in, you will want to utilize this stand for her. And finally, she comes with her lasso of truth. And this looks really nice. It's made out of a very nice material. I wish that McFarlane would have ran bendy wire up through it though, like they did with the rope on Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. You know, I'm probably going to leave it tied up like this, that way I can hang it from her belt loop right there. So it looks cool, but it would have been really cool if they would have put some bendy wire in it. So now, let's go ahead and take a look at her head sculpt. So taking a look at this head sculpt, I think this might be the best Wonder Woman head sculpt that McFarlane Toys has done. I really like the heads on those collector's editions, but man, I think this one is actually better. I feel like it's instantly recognizable as Jim Lee's art. This is actually, I think it's a modified version of the statue, the Wonder Woman by Jim Lee statue that McFarlane did a while back. I'm pretty sure they just modified that for this 7-inch body. But I think they did a really good job at sculpting and painting this because, like I said, as soon as I saw this figure, I was like, that looks like Jim Lee's Wonder Woman. So all of the details on the face are printed on, and they came out very crisp. That's some really nice face printing going on there. You even get some variation on her skin tone and lips there. And the hair is also sculpted really nicely. I love how they added some blue shading to that. This is just a fantastic looking head sculpt. McFarlane Toys did a really, really good job on her. I think the rest of the figure looks just as good. We do get a lot of reuse on this figure though. So the arms, both of the arms, the upper and lower torso, and the legs are reused from the Wonder Woman from the Dawn of Justice movie. Which that really doesn't bother me because that's kind of more or less what her modern comic look is. We do get new hands as far as I can tell because the hands on the Dawn of Justice Wonder Woman had wrappings on them. So I'm pretty sure these are brand new. I think the thing that stands out most on this figure is the collars. The metallic red looks really nice, and the gold really pops. Both of those look really, really superb. Her tunic here has some texturing to it. I love all the texturing that they put on there. You can see on this side some of the gold didn't get painted on there. But I think that looks pretty good nonetheless. As I said, that metallic red really, really stands out. And I like how they actually painted the joint right here. As far as I can tell, it's actually cast in like a marbleized gold color. And then they painted half of it in red. So I'm really glad that they did that. A lot of companies just leave the joint the same color. But no, they actually painted that. And I've posed this figure around and it hasn't chipped, so that's a really good thing. The only real complaints I have with this is something with the articulation, which I'm going to go over in a second, and her shoulders are a different color than the rest of her skin tone. I don't know if the camera is picking it up, but the shoulders are a really different skin tone than the rest of her is. It's like a darker color. But it's just her shoulders. I don't know if they just painted over top of that, or it's just cast in a different material. I feel like you can really tell where it's darker right there. Not quite sure why they did that. So now, let's go ahead and go over her articulation, which brings me to my second issue with the figure. While this head sculpt is amazing, the hair really limits what you can do with it. So the head can really move side to side very slightly. She can look down just about all the way, and she can't look back at all. So while it is a fantastic looking head sculpt, the way they sculpted the hair really hinders it, even though it does feel kind of pliable. So yeah, that is a bit of a letdown. She has shoulders that can move all the way out and spin all the way around. Swiveled the bicep, really tight joint though. Double jointed elbows that can bend in all the way. Ball jointed wrists that can move up and down and spin all the way around. She has a ball jointed diaphragm and waist that can move back very slightly. She can actually crunch forward a decent amount, but you can see a lot of gappage back here. She can move side to side and around really nicely down here. Not as much down here at the waist. She has hips. You could probably actually get her doing a complete split, but I don't want to split the skirt right here. I think I said tunic earlier, I meant skirt. She can kick forward very slightly. She can't kick back all the way. She has a really nice thigh swivel. Double jointed knees that can only move back that far. Ankles that can move down all the way, up just a little bit, spin around. Kind of a tight joint there. And toe articulation that can move up that far. So let's do some size comparisons with this Wonder Woman figure before I take a look at Godzilla. So first up here, she is next to the regular collector edition and platinum versions of herself. And man, both of these figures are crazy expensive to get. You know, I don't think that people should sleep on this set solely for Wonder Woman. You know, Godzilla is really cool too, but if you don't have a definitive Wonder Woman in your collection, then you're definitely going to want to get this back. Because like I said, the Wonder Woman figures I'm showing off right now are crazy hard to find now. Here she is next to Superman from the previous Godzilla pack and Nightfall Batman. I was trying to find the Batman that actually went with the King Kong set, but I couldn't find him. I feel like every time I need a very specific figure for a video, I can never find them. And finally, here she is next to modern Aquaman. So now, let's go ahead and take a look at Atomic Godzilla. So taking a look at the head sculpt on this Godzilla figure, I think it looks really nice. This is just a repaint of the previous Godzilla figure, but I love the shading that we get on this head sculpt. It looks like it's printed on variation around his eyes to emulate a glow looks really good, as well as the blue in the mouth. And I think the figure still has some phenomenal sculpt detail, but the paint is really lacking compared to the first release of Godzilla. So they did do a dry brushing over top of the whole figure. So all of him is detailed with this dry brushing of light blue, but it's really subtle. Like, I wish it would have been brighter like his spines, or maybe done some gray variation too. Having this one in hand, the paint is really lacking when compared to the previous version. So for the positives, I will talk about the paint on the spines here. So they're painted in dark blue and have a dry brushing of light blue towards the edges. I think that brings the detailing out really nicely. The dry brushing especially brings out the texturing on the spines. I think that looks really good. And of course that runs down the whole figure, including this really long tail. And as I said, you get that dry brushing of blue, but it's very subtle and it's very hard to see. So that's really about all to go over with this Godzilla figure. Still has some awesome sculpt, but the paint is lacking, especially compared to the previous version. You know, I absolutely love the paint detail on him. I don't think enough people really talked about the paint variation on that last one. But yeah, this one doesn't have enough, you know. I just don't think it looks as good as the previous one. So, going over Godzilla's articulation, he has a ball-jointed head that can move up and down very slightly. Can move side to side really nicely. The jaw does open, but you can't get it completely closed. The arms on mine are really stiff. That makes an awful noise. I didn't have that problem with the previous Godzilla figure. Man, that sounds really bad. His legs are also really tight to move. So they feel like they're going to pop off when I'm articulating them. And he has a ball-jointed tail that is really loose. It can move side to side and up and down just a little bit. And if you want to get the bendy wire in the tail moving, You really have to force it, but since the tail is loose, it does tend to pop off. So for size comparisons, here Atomic Godzilla is next to the regular Godzilla that came with Batman. And this first release on the right, he has so much more paint variation than the one on the left. Like I said, you do get that blue dry brushing over top of the whole figure, but it's so subtle you can barely tell. You know, I wish it had some more paint detail to it. It looks really plain when compared to this Godzilla. And finally, there he is next to Kong. And I have to say, they do look pretty epic next to each other. So overall, I do like this set, but it is very pricey, especially since I already have the previous Godzilla set. You know, and that Godzilla is detailed way better than this one. Now that I have this Atomic Godzilla in hand, it just looks really flat. You know, I feel like the paint and stuff is worse on it than the previous release. I think the main draw for this set for a lot of collectors is finally getting a Wonder Woman figure. Like I said, that collector's edition Wonder Woman figure is incredibly hard to get now and very expensive. So, you know, do you want to give the big price and get this set mainly for Wonder Woman? I've seen a lot of people doing that, buying the set just for Wonder Woman and then selling Godzilla, and that really does suck. I mean, if you don't have a Godzilla in your collection, then this one is a really good one. But I don't feel like a lot of people are going to want to buy this 2-pack just for Godzilla. I think a lot of people are going to be getting it just for that Wonder Woman. So overall, I do like this set. Me personally, I like it. I do have my nitpicks with it. You know, I think Godzilla could have been painted better, and Wonder Woman maybe could have came with alternate hands, or at least a weapon for that accessory holding hand. But I do like it. I will admit the price is definitely steep. And it sucks for those that don't have a Wonder Woman figure that you're forced to buy this set just to get one. So while I like this set, I do know that it's not going to be for everybody. So, that's my review. If you like this review, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.